How does a GPU actually work? Your computer has a CPU, maybe let's say for example 8 cores, maybe 16 cores. But then you look at a modern GPU can have thousands of cores. So what the hell are all of those cores doing? And why are GPUs so ridiculously good at AI? So the answer comes down to one simple idea, which is parallelism. So let's understand how does this work. So to understand this, we'll compare CPU and GPU. So now let's take a simple example. Imagine you're running a restaurant. You have a small kitchen with 8 extremely skilled chefs. Each chef can handle complicated orders. One chef can make pasta, another can prepare steak, another can make dessert, and they can all make decisions and handle completely different tasks. That is roughly how a CPU works. A CPU has a relatively small number of powerful cores designed to handle many different tasks, many different kind of tasks. Now imagine a different restaurant. Inside of 8 chefs, you have thousands of other workers. So you have 8 major chefs and then below them you have thousands of other workers. But there's a catch. They are not there to independently prepare complicated meals. They are there to do simple tasks over and over again. Cut this, cut this, cut this, or maybe clean this, clean this, clean this thousands of times. So that is the basic idea behind GPU. A GPU is designed to perform enormous amount of similar computation in parallel, and graphics are the perfect example of it. Imagine your screen has millions of pixels. To render an image, the computer needs to calculate which color pixel should be. Pixel 1 calculated, pixel 2 calculated, pixel 3 calculated, and so on. So a huge number of calculations can happen independently. So instead of one worker doing everything sequentially, thousands of workers can work at the same time. And that is the fundamental advantage of GPU. Now, you might have this kind of question in your head. How does that actually work? How does it actually do this? How does this kind of parallelism actually work? So here is where things get interesting. A GPU does not just throw thousands of cores at a random problem or a problem randomly. The worker is broken into small pieces of thread. For example, you have an house and you not one house, let's say you have 10,000 houses to paint. So instead of telling one person to paint all 10,000 houses, you divide the job. Worker 1 gets house 1, worker 2 gets house 2, worker 3 gets house 3, and so on and so forth. Now thousands of workers can work simultaneously, and computers do something very similar. A large computation gets divided into many smaller operations. A GPU schedules these operations across many processing resources, and because of them performing similar instructions at the same time, you get massive parallelism. And this is why GPU thousands of cores are not simply thousands of tiny CPUs. They're part of a system designed specifically to execute enormous amount of parallel work. And that brings us to a really interesting part. Why is this so good for AI? Why is GPU considered very good for AI? Why is people saying that GPU is really good? Don't use CPU, go for GPU when it comes to training AI models. Why? Because modern AI is basically drowning in mathematics. Take a neural network, for example. Inside it are enormous arrays of numbers, which are called as matrices. And the model constantly performs operations on them. For example, imagine you have a huge matrix containing thousands of numbers. You need to multiply it with another huge matrix. That's a ridiculous number of individual calculations. But here's the important part. Many of those calculations can be performed independently. So instead of calculation, 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 you can do calculation plus more calculation plus more calculation plus more calculation all at the same time. And that's exactly the kind of workload GPUs are built for. It is like giving our army of thousands of workers a massive pile of identical tasks, same task, and suddenly the GPU starts to make sense when you have repeated tasks. So the big picture is very simple. When you hear AI runs on GPUs, it is not because GPUs are magically better at AI, it is because AI involves enormous amount of mathematical computation that can be performed in parallel. So a CPU is like a small team of highly capable problem solvers, but a GPU is a massive army of workers that can attack thousands of similar problems simultaneously. And when you're training, or let's say for example running a giant neural network, that is exactly what you want. You want massive amount of computation at the same time. And that's the basic idea behind how a GPU actually works. So in the next layer, if the GPU has thousands of cores, what is actually inside of those cores and how they are organized? We'll discuss that in the next video. So stay tuned.